Welcome to EWTN's live coverage of the Synod of Bishops on the Family. This is Friday of week 2. This morning, the Synod Fathers heard from the fraternal delegations. These are delegates from different Christian confessions who are invited by the Holy Father to attend the Synod. Right now, they're just finishing up listening to reports by the auditors that were invited to attend the Synod and meeting in their small groups. Auditors are invited to listen mainly, but today was their day to address everyone present, including Pope Francis, who was always present at the general congregations. In the press conference today, the results of the morning presentations from the fraternal delegations were presented. Present for today's conference were 2 delegates, one from the East and one from the West, as Father Lombardi put it. Representing the Ecumenical Patriarchate was His Eminence Orthodox Bishop Stephanos, and representing the Anglican Communion was the Right Reverend Timothy Thornton. At the press briefing, it was noted that in one of the presentations, the link between Christ's self-gift in the Eucharist mirrors that of the mutual self-gift of married couples. And the participants spoke about the teachings of Humanae Vitae that touched on procreation, contraception, and family life. Father Rosica, the English language liaison at the press office, said that other sensitive subjects were also brought up in today's General Assembly. Let's listen.
The topic of violence within families, incest within families, sexual abuse within families. The expression was used, the martyrdom of silence in many families where incest has taken place. And the Church has to become the voice and give voice in those situations to the martyrs, those who have suffered the terrible evil of incest.
The Anglican representative at the Synod mentioned that the people expecting final answers at the end of this Synod might be disappointed. The Anglican bishop also said that pastoral answers might not be what people expect them to be.
Those people, and maybe there are some in this room, I don't know, who are expecting something to happen at the end of this synod process, as if a revelation will occur. I could be wrong, but my hunch would be that's not going to happen. But, I just don't think it's as easy to suggest there is a neat distinction between doctrine and pastoral issues. I always think that the word pastoral is so often misunderstood, and in my world it can often be seen as a soft way, a way of saying something nice to people. Actually, pastoral work is sometimes the most difficult work you can possibly do. So I think there is a profoundly theological setting.
Now I'd like to welcome my first guest to the program, Mr. George Weigel. He is very well known to our EWTN viewers as a best-selling author, papal biographer, and an expert on all things Vatican. No pressure there. Welcome to the program.
Nice to be with you, Mary. Now,
first of all, I want to talk about, you have a book coming out. Well, let's say it's a revised and expanded edition of one that you've published in the past. We apologize for the noise at home. We've got helicopters and sirens, and usually that means someone's coming to visit the Holy Father. But anyway, but let's talk about this book, because I haven't read it yet, because it's called Letters to a Young Catholic, and I don't think I'm allowed to read it.
No, you're certainly allowed to read it. Indeed, you're required to read it. Letters to a Young Catholic, in its original form, was published in 2004. It's been translated into 5 languages. I had more fun writing this book, which is kind of a tour of the Catholic world, with catechetical moments hung on different places around the world.
That's what I found fascinating, yeah.
So the publisher, who's had quite a success with the book, suggested that I expand it.
Okay.
So I've added 5 new chapters, touching on the mystery of evil, enculturation, where we visit the shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the new martyrs of the 20th century, a wonderful parish in a very improbable place in London, Soho in the West End. So the new edition, revised and expanded, of Letters to a Young Catholic fills out the picture of the Catholic Church that I tried to present in the first iteration of this.
I found it just a description. Like I said, I haven't had the chance to read it yet because it's obviously not for me, for the young. It takes the reader on a tour to Catholic landmarks, in the first one anyway, the first edition, let's say, to Chartres, St. Mary's Church in Greenville, South Carolina, right, which you maybe not, was Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, okay, that was to be expected, and then G.K. Chesterton's favorite pub, and through this you highlight the beliefs that have shaped Catholicism for 2,000 years. This is fascinating.
It's, in a sense, this book anticipated Father Barron's Catholicism series, because you, as he did in that series, I explain basic themes of Catholic faith through places and people. And it's a tour guide. It's a spiritual tour guide, and I think people have found it helpful. Lots of high schools and colleges uses it as text. Young Catholic is anybody, I would say, from 16 to 94.
Because they're just under the mark.
So
okay,
you're in the game here, and I hope people enjoy it.
And when is it coming out? It's already
It's
come out.
out. It was
okay.
out at the end of August.
And we can find it
anywhere, and
Right.
online, obviously, all the online bookstores.
Definitely. And you'll be presenting, if I'm not mistaken, a German edition of one of your books here in Rome right now.
Yeah, the day after the Synod,
Yeah.
there'll be in the Collegio Teutonico right behind us here in the Vatican, a presentation of the German edition of my book, Evangelical Catholicism,
Okay.
with my friend Cardinal George Pell and Professor Stefan Kempowski from the John Paul II
Wonderful. Yes, Stefan and I went
Institute.
to school together, Steubenville.
Yeah,
No,
right.
sure. Oh, that sounds like, well, Germany, this might be useful for the church in Germany at the moment, and we could all use a little bit of evangelizing, so to speak. But why have you here for the folks at home, because you are an expert on so many things. The Synod that's taking place here on the family, what have been your impressions so far? Because you've been analyzing the Vatican for decades now. So what do you think?
This Synod is a much more robust discussion than last year. I think those who want to defend as well as present better the classic teaching of the Church on chastity, marriage, and the family are much better organized this time. And believe that they have the momentum on their side. I've been participating in a media project called Letters from the Synod that appears every day on the website of First Things, the Catholic Herald in London, and the Catholic Weekly in Sydney, Australia. We've had a very, very positive response to that. So I think there's a lot of interest all over the world, but there are some real arguments here. I mean,
What's emerging for you is like
well, the
key
fundamental argument beneath all of this, Mary, I think, is whether this is a church rooted in revelation. To take two specific cases, the Lord's teaching on the indissolubility of marriage and St. Paul's teaching on the conditions for worthily receiving Holy Communion, or whether, as Cardinal Pell said yesterday in his inimitable fashion, we are floating along some Hegelian flux of history.
It's great with the words.
That's the fundamental issue. That's certainly one of the fundamental issues here. What's going to emerge next week, I think, as the flashpoint, is not the proposal of Cardinal Casper, which has
communion
no
for divorce
chance.
and remarries is
That's just not
that's done.
That's not going anywhere. But the attempt by some to say that this is a merely disciplinary matter that can be better handled by national conferences of bishops and regional conferences.
This is what I'm worried about.
Well, this is not merely a disciplinary matter. It's been made very clear in the Apostolic Exhortation Familiaris Consortio, in two encyclicals, one by John Paul II, one encyclical by John Paul II, another apostolic exhortation by Benedict XVI, numerous authoritative statements from dicasteries of the Roman Curia, that this is a practice that deeply engages doctrine. It engages the doctrine of grace, the doctrine of the sacraments. So this is not some merely disciplinary matter at all. You cannot divide the question like that. And that's going to be an important argument to have next week, which in fact has already begun.
You think that we're going to come to some sort of a conclusion by the end of next week? Many of the Synod Fathers are complaining, you know, they're gasping at this point, saying, we barely have time to get through any of this. How in the world are they going to come to a consensus, a document to put forth, let's say apostolic exhortation, I mean, in a year from now? But.
Well, the apostolic exhortation, whether there is one, is up to the Pope.
Right.
The final report will be drafted in the middle of next week.
Voted on.
Cardinal Baldessari has assured the Synod Fathers there will be a paragraph-by-paragraph vote, and that the affirming majority will be 2/3, not simply 1/2. That's a lot of work. I frankly think there's been some time wasted on things that are nice, but are not necessarily getting at the meat of
We keep hearing
this.
fraternal it is, and how wonderful that's been. Everyone at the, getting to meet each other, and the Holy Fathers at the coffee breaks. I get what you mean, but let's get to the meat of things.
And I think, well, the language-based discussion groups, these Cercoli Minores, are working very hard.
Right.
And the reports, which have been, to the Synod General Secretariat's credit, made available to everybody, although not translated, have been very interesting and suggest that there's some serious discussion going on. I also think, Mary, that the narrative on this synod, to use a word I despise, but everyone uses, including me, has been quite different this time.
In what way?
The Casper proposal drove the narrative in 2014. It is not driving the narrative right
and
now.
I haven't heard a peep from him. You know, in the media.
He's given
I mean,
one intervention that I don't think created much of a stir. So no, this is a different business this time.
Yeah.
And there are some very, very impressive people here from the English-speaking world. We've already mentioned Cardinal Pell, Cardinal Napier from South Africa, Cardinal Collins from Toronto.
Yeah.
Archbishop Chaput, I think, has made an enormous impression on a number of people,
Speaking
as
out
he
strongly.
did in Philadelphia during the Holy Father's visit there. Cardinal DiNardo made an important intervention. Cardinal Dolan is omnipresent.
Yes.
So the Anglosphere is doing its bit
They seem to be
here.
united, at least the ones you mentioned,
Yeah.
and I'm really trying to put forth doctrine and making sure that's safeguarded.
And everyone understands that we can do a lot better job of explaining why we believe what we believe. Everyone understands that we can do a much better job of pastoral care. I mean, pastoral care is an ongoing, developing process in the church.
Yeah.
But I think people are beginning to understand that setting truth and mercy against each other is a false dichotomy.
Where did this come from?
well,
I mean, I guess
there's
in
lots
the,
of confusions in the
one of the
age,
things have
but-
been language. Everyone has been talking about the language of the Synod, the instrumentum laboris, and if the language is off, the confusion arises. And
Well, the instrumentum laboris satisfied no one except the people who drafted it.
it seems to
it's
be
just
a martyr
simply-
document, as Cardinal
Well, no,
Tagle said.
it doesn't need to be martyred. It needs to be euthanized. It's simply an inadequate document for
Seems to be the
discussion
consensus.
No,
Yeah, consensus.
But I think people have got, look, they decided this was going to be the basis. We're going to work with this and go beyond this, incorporating into the reflection of these small groups the Pope's comments, Cardinal Erdu's magnificent presentation of the whole landscape of the Synod on the first day. So in a sense, the instrumentum laboris has been put out of its misery. And
Already at the
people
end
are
of week
moving
2,
on.
they're moving
Right,
on. Yeah, I think so too. So we're just about 30 seconds left. What do you think how is this going to end?
I don't think we know.
Okay.
I don't think we know how this is going to end. We know that there are going to be votes next Saturday on this final draft, but it would be a very foolish person who suggested that they had an accurate vote count on 100 and some paragraphs of a final
And
document.
that are being simultaneously translated,
Let's hope.
well or not so well in their ear. Then they have
the
to vote and hit a
process-
button. And
The process needs some work.
yeah.
And everyone understands
Synod 3
that.
next year, predicted right here. No,
No.
we're not ready for that.
No, I don't think so.
Thank you so much
Thanks,
for being
Mary.
on the program.
Great to see you.
We have to take a break, but stay tuned for more live Synod coverage from Rome. Here we go. Welcome back to EWTN's continuing coverage of the Synod on the Family live from Rome. Now I have the pleasure of welcoming Father McLean Cummings on the program. He works here in the Vatican at the Congregation for Eastern Churches, and he is involved with an apostolate called Encourage that helps relatives of people with same-sex attraction minister to those family members who are experiencing that. Father, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mary.
So nice to have you on.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, this is a subject that we haven't really addressed, on our show, and I haven't heard it addressed, in the Synod Hall, or we're not being made aware of that. you work with Encourage to try to help the relatives. A family member might be experiencing same-sex attraction, so you're helping the family deal with that?
That's right.
Okay.
Whatever family members seek our assistance, the first thing that they need is support. They might feel, the parents usually feel completely alone and bewildered often when they learn that their child or some other loved one is dealing with same-sex attraction. And if they hear about us, they're very happy to come, usually once a month, to share with other people like themselves. And that support is
like a support
essential.
group. So not just you ministering to them and counseling them. It's a group. They're sharing their shared experience.
Oh yes, very true. And that can help a lot in just giving them information that they wouldn't get from the secular media or their other friends.
It was kind of not a new thing, but I mean, just in terms of like, okay, how do we do this? I mean, where do we begin? And that's a great way. And how can they find out more about this? Just quickly at the beginning of our interview, where can they go to hear more about what your ministry is?
In the United States, there's a website. It will be on the website for Courage.
Courage, okay.
But I should also point out that besides just the support, then of course it's to try to develop their own spirituality so that they can use this difficult aspect of their life to actually grow in the faith and keep on being a parent to their child and help them in the best way possible.
Yeah, because it's all about love, they'll never stop loving their child, and they just want to, and the person going through that and the confusion they must be going through, so I think you help them, 360 degrees.
That's the goal, with God's help.
So you explained about how it's embedded, let's say, inside Courage International. What's different between what you do and Courage?
Well, it grew out of Courage.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly how long after the founding of Courage, about 30 years ago, but at some point it became evident that that there were other people besides those who were actually dealing with same-sex attraction themselves who also needed support.
Okay, so it's that Courage is for the people actually going through it, and this is for the family.
Exactly.
Okay, now I get the distinction. I'm so sorry. Now, in our society, confusion reigns about what same-sex attraction is. I mean, we might think we know what it is. Is this attraction an essential part of the identity of these people going through it?
No, indeed.
Okay.
No, that's not at all. One should distinguish, but the person from the attractions that they feel, and then also from the actual acts, homosexual acts. The three things have to be kept quite separate.
Okay.
And
so the person, the attraction, and the act are three different things. Okay.
Yeah, and as the members of Courage grow in their faith and in their understanding of themselves, they distinguish. They come to distinguish. At first, they think, this is my identity. This is who I am. I have to embrace this and live this. And then they realize, no, I'm a child of God. I'm an individual who has all kinds of gifts and potentials, and Courage helps them to develop those.
Oh, that's wonderful. In your experience in dealing with people with same-sex attraction who choose to live chastely, are they living a happy life? Because that's the decision once they realize they're a child of God and they may have this attraction. The only option is to live a chaste life.
Correct.
I mean, is this a happy life for them?
Oh, indeed. No, the whole goal of Christianity is to find happiness, and we only find that through virtue. In this case, the virtue of chastity, and through drawing close to God and to Christ, and to living according to the wisdom of our nature that we were created. And Courage enables people to do that, and some of them will experience less of same-sex attraction. Sometimes even losing it altogether.
Okay.
Sometimes developing opposite-sex attraction. Every person is different. That's an important thing to keep in mind, and their particular journey through this is also different. But all of them are directed towards happiness, and all the ones I've met are finding it.
Is Encourage Catholic-based?
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay.
Courage and Encourage were both founded by Father John Harvey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of priests. There are enough priests well-formed to deal with this?
Sure. Actually, Courage is, it's essentially a priestly group. that the priests are the chaplains of courage groups. Each one always meets with a priest.
Do you have enough, is what I'm saying?
Oh,
do you need more?
Always use more. Always
yeah,
use more.
sure. I mean,
Courage is present in over 80 dioceses in America, and it's just starting up in Europe, but there's plenty of priests who are ready to help.
I want to talk about a recent conference that took place here in Rome, because we have a couple of clips from participants of that. We had the chance to speak with two people before the Synod. One of them is Paul, who has same-sex attraction, who made a change in his life to live chastely. And the other is Rylene, a businesswoman who was in a same-sex partnership for over 30 years before embracing the church's teaching on chastity. So I wanted our viewers at home to be able to listen to what they expect from the Synod.
And I'm hoping that the Synod will look at that and not just give this weak compassion. I lived in California for years, and it was all about love, love, love. You go into a church, the homily, love, love, but there was nothing more than that. And as we heard today, there's a history, a tradition, thousands of years, and the writings of the apostles that talk about love and also truth.
We really need help and encouragement, because what the world needs is a model that says chastity does work. And if there aren't any local courage groups with members who are standing up saying, yes, I am chaste, I'm living this life, it brings me joy, I'm glad I abandoned the other way of life. If those models aren't out there for people to see, then they can easily just assume nobody does it, nobody can do it, it's impossible. And it's not impossible, it's very possible.
Father, do you think the Synod Fathers are aware enough of cases like these, the concerns of people like these, like this, loving people?
Well, certainly can always be more aware, and that's why it was such a wonderful thing to have Paul and Rylene come to Rome just a few days before the Synod, and I was privileged to meet them, and they and people like them are true heroes, because it's certainly possible to live chastity. They're showing it, they're proving it, but of course it takes great virtue and great faith, and also great courage for them to witness to what the Lord has done in their lives.
And I think it may be being discussed in the Synod walls behind us, and because it's a situation that families experience and communities experience and parishes experience. So how to reach out to them lovingly as people, you know, I mean, like you say, they have so much to contribute. It's, you know, it's not like they just need our help or our pity or anything. It's just like, no, you know, this is people we know and we love them. And how do we, you know, get them more involved in the community when they don't have to feel like outsiders for this?
Oh, right. Well, that's one of the great things about courage, is that it's a way that the church can tell people who experiencing same-sex attraction that they're not outsiders, that there is a place in the church where they're not only welcome, but where they can find, you know, have friends like themselves and realize, you know, I'm not the only one who's, because one could feel, you know, very much that way. The Synod so can certainly, I hope, tell the world that not only does the church have a way of helping people live chastity, but as Rylene said, they're doing it already. You know, with the help of the sacraments, with the help of prayer, with the help of good Christian friends, in courage and outside of courage, with the help of their families as well, who are really the first people to minister to their children. They certainly can live happy and full lives.
How did you get involved? How did you feel this calling? Because it's a calling, whatever vocation we do in life, and to minister to a specific group of people. And I mean, how did you feel God's call for this?
I was called up by the leader of an encourage group in Baltimore.
So you got a real phone call. Okay. Yeah. How did you feel to call the phone?
Right. That's a very concrete call. So I did help a little bit the encourage group in Baltimore. Okay. I'm a priest of that archdiocese.
Archdiocese, right?
But then when I came to Rome to work at the Congregation for Oriental Churches, in my spare time, I sought out. I was wondering, is there such a thing here in Rome? Okay. And so I contacted the office and found that no, it's just starting. So we started the first encourage group here in Italy.
Okay. Have you been meeting with any Vatican officials? They're very excited about a program like this, I would imagine, because it is reaching out to these souls.
Sure. Well, on the Vatican level, it would be the director of Courage who's meeting with them.
Right.
On the level of Vicariate, of course, the local people are meeting with
Yeah,
them.
but there's support there. I mean, there's, you know, thank goodness you're out there and doing what you're doing. And again, the website is it courage.com? You know, we're going to get that straight. We're going to give it to you. But I mean, yeah.
I know if you.
But
if
you could
just,
Google it. Yeah,
right.
Right. Yeah, just Google
that's
it.
what I do.
And then you'll figure out to find out more about Encourage as well. So important ministries that are helping people and their families find some healing. Father, thank you so much for being on the program. And
it was my pleasure.
And we hope the folks at home and anyone that may be going through this in some way is going to find hope.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's our show for this evening from Rome. Remember, for all the latest information on the Synod, visit our special Synod page on EWTN.com and follow us on Twitter at EWTN. Send us your comments and questions. We'd love getting them, and use the hashtag EWTN Synod. And don't forget to tune in to EWTN News Nightly and the world over for more Synod updates. I'm Mary Shevlin. Good night from Rome.